If you're just joining us, welcome to the Limitless Health Club. Nobody else should talk or make any sounds. We're putting our phone. The first thing we're doing is we're taking our phone with the Q disc and we're putting it on top of our head and having long, slow, deep breaths. And when you do this, you don't want to talk to get all the benefits. You don't want to make sounds. You don't want to interrupt yourself. You just want to breathe. And if your phone's not muted, please mute your thing. I just muted you off. Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. Shoot. Keep going, just a couple more breaths. And if you've done about 5 to 7 breaths, you usually know when you're finished. You just start to get lighter and lighter and more clear in your mind. And that's when you can stop. And so if you have the 5G Q disc on your phone, it not only blocks the harmful EMFs, but it turns your phone into a healing tool. And once or twice a day, you should absolutely take your phone on top of your head and just breathe. It will turn on all of your meridians, all your energy channels, all your organs, glands, and everything going on in your body so that you now have a biofield and you have working meridians. And that's when healing is limitless. So I strongly recommend that you do that every single day. The next thing that I wanted to do before I take questions is to just remind everybody that one of the things that's happening on the planet right now is a lot of change. And the most important thing you can do is to stay grounded, calm, relaxed, and centered. And just focus on you or your family and you and your kids or your spouse, your pets, but just deep breaths every single day, because there is a lot of noise and there is a lot of chaos out there, but it's really just a catalyst for the positive. So if you keep yourself in the space like, oh, I'm doing such a great job, I'm healing, my body is feeling good, I'm doing all this self-care, that's where I want you to be. Don't pay attention to all the noise. There's so much noise on Instagram, there's so much noise on social media, and I have not watched regular television in over 4 years. So I'm sure when I go to a public place that has TV, it is just chaos and noise to just have a TV channel on with all the commercials and the news. So I would also just recommend to avoid that like the plague as much as you can. Okay. One of the people that has attended tonight was inquiring about tapping and swiping and wanted to suggest it to a friend, but just thought, they're really probably not going to do that. And what I would like to recommend is people probably will do it if you tell them it actually works and it's free. They not every person is energy sensitive and not everyone is going to feel the benefits right away. But some people don't even feel the benefits when they come for one-on-one sessions right away. And then they look back and go, oh yeah, actually I felt really good yesterday, or I had no problem sleeping, or my energy didn't crash. I didn't need a 3 p.m. snack. So sometimes the feeling is like a hindsight thing. Like later on, you're like, oh yeah, I did actually feel good. So, tapping and swiping absolutely works. And I think we should just dive right in and do it right now. With the shifting and the changing that is going on the planet right now, there is a lot of emotional stuff happening within an individual. And so when someone has emotional stuff going on, tapping and swiping is one of the perfect things to do, as well as the body talk, the little statement that you can download. Maybe you've received one of these cards from me at a certain time. This will clear out whatever emotional stuff is surfaced in your body right now or today, because you have a today body. Energy is always in motion. It's when it gets stuck that problems happen. It's when it gets stuck that there's a dis-ease, like there's a traffic jam. So we are just always wanting to move energy so that there are less and less traffic jams, knowing that the traffic sorry, somebody else just wanted to join. Knowing that traffic jams happen every day. Like I've been sitting in this chair for the last 2 hours working on the computer, and I stood up and I was like, oh, like I was just felt like so good 2 hours and 1 minute ago. My energy was like flowing, and then 2 hours in a chair, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to stretch for a minute, my hips and my legs when I get up, because energy is just getting stuck. And that might not be your current issue. That's where I'm moving energy in my first and second chakra area, like the hip region is things I'm working on. So it's wherever you're working on. Someone's working on their hand or their neck. That's where you're going to have repetitive traffic jams. So you want to really do the work more. So enough said, I'm going to stand up and we're going to do tapping and swiping. You can keep your screens off if you want. I don't mind that anyone does that, but I won't do that. So I usually recommend the first 2 fingers, but I sometimes feel like 4 might even work as long as you don't hurt yourself. So just start on the top of your head. And remember when you were little and you used to have to paint in between the lines or color in between the lines, you're kind of thinking about that. You're like trying to get like every part of you. And you're just breathing out. I will not be able to breathe as much as I would like you to because I'm talking, but make sure you get the head, the neck, you get all the back of the neck, breathing out often, tapping. We can come back to the armpits in a moment. I like to do the organs, do the chest, all around the chest, on the chest. If you have implant scars, I would do those too. Tap all the way down to the belly button, to the pubic bone, the side body. And then for my back, I tend to use a knuckle, like the first knuckle, because I could reach much higher. So I'm going to punch above my adrenals, my middle back, my kidneys. I'm going to go into my hips and just stay calm for just a second and just let all of that energy just move around. You might notice it more now than when some of you are with me, because you haven't just had a whole other session at the same time. So let everything just settle. And then we're going to go into the lymph. So we're going to tap the front, the middle, and the back of the armpit on both sides. Breathing out. And I want you to do this. There's no sitting. I know someone that's on this call tends to sit and watch. I want you to do it right now. And that person who just joined last missed when we did our phones on top of our heads. Also for 5 to 8 breaths. So we're doing the groins now, into the butt cheeks, breathing out. And then just hang out for a second. Just, it feels good. So just enjoy it. It's like an internal shower of just energy moving around. Then we're going to take one hand on top of the opposite shoulder and swipe all the way. And if your fingers are bothering you, you want to make sure you get the whole circle, all 360 degrees. If your fingers are bothering you, do each one separately, like they sometimes do at massages. Just do one arm for right now. And you can shake it out a little bit and then just put your arms at your side and just breathe. And see if you notice the difference in both sides. The one that you just did is lighter. The other one's like a brick. I have like a little traffic jam right now. I just noticed right at my elbow and in one finger. So we're going to do that side. So I'm going to go around my elbow a little extra. I might even rake a little rather than just swipe, like use my fingers like a rake to really move the energy. I can feel it. It feels like, yeah, it feels like the way it does when you're getting a massage, but I feel like the fascia moving too. Fascia moves in opposite direction of muscle. So sometimes you might want to go that way too, the other direction. And then breathing out, and I'm going to swipe each finger individually, letting somebody in the class. So just breathe. We're swiping, we're tapping and swiping. So we just finished our second hand. You might shaking them out a little bit, breathing out. And then you're going to go to your hips. So your hands are going to be by your kidneys, and you are going to swipe down your legs, all 360 degrees, breathing out. And then once you've done that a few times, you want to make sure you also get the top and the bottom of each foot, including the heel. So I'll move my foot a couple of times. And then I'll do my other one. Breathing out, lots of exhales. And then just hang out and breathe for a moment. And just breathe. And let everything settle. And that's tapping and swiping. And so I recommend doing that every single day. I do recommend telling your friends to do that. They can download the protocol off the website for about $2. I teach it in some of the do-it-yourself courses. So they can also, people that are non-believers can go through the do-it-yourself in the text or the video form and learn about the 3 simple steps to health and building a biofield and a foundation for health, what the assembly line is, and some different ways that we can work on the scars and traumas in our body so that we can have limitless health. And I still feel, because I haven't had the chance to breathe out as many times as you did while I'm talking, I still feel like everything's just like moving and moving and moving. So yeah, energy is always moving, and people that might not feel that will probably still have a improved sense of well-being within the next 10 to 40 minutes after completing that. You know, it's like a workout. You don't work out and then feel nothing. So I want to encourage you to do that. For those of you that just joined, I was talking that if you have your Q disc on your phone, to put it on your head every day and do about 5 to 8 breaths, that also turns on your field. I am going to take a couple of questions, and if any of those questions lead me into a topic, I'll continue with that topic. Otherwise, I was going to talk a little bit about hormones tonight. If you have a question, you can unmute. Otherwise, and if someone else is unmuted and you want to raise your hand, you can. Otherwise, I will, in a moment, share the screen. Okay. I love how I offer this to answer everyone's questions and no one has any, but there are
Wait,
so.
I have a question, Julie. It's Beth.
Hi.
What was that thing with your phone on your head?
We did that at the beginning of class. You were late. When you put as long as you have the 5G remediation on your phone,
Yeah.
turns your phone into a healing tool. And when you put it on top of your head and breathe, it turns everything on. Meridians, biofields, chakras, organs, glands, etc. So to do that.
Do you recommend those for like routers? And if so, how many do you need like per router?
You can definitely put the Q disc on a router, and especially if it's near someone's bedroom or you feel like you just want top Vastu and energetics in your home. The LMP, the Liquitech paint also works for routers. And I would just put one on the router.
This one.
The router would probably be, besides the devices, this needs to go on all the devices that come on your body. Your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and probably your desktop. But the devices that are just like around the house, we can use the EMF paint, the Liquitech. I have one behind me, but the little gold bottle.
Yeah, I have that.
You can use that on the router. If you're not sure, because you've taken O-ring before, so if you know how to test around your home, you can use that. An EMF reader won't work because the EMF reader will still pick up EMFs even after they're remediated. So only like an energetic test, like using the O-ring, will be able to detect if the area is remediated.
Okay.
And you actually test the air, literally, like you would do like make some chaos in the air, and then you would need a person and they would do this, and you would point at the air, up, down, all the way down to the floor, point at your bed, where you sleep, where you sit at your desk. All of those places need to test strong all the time.
Okay.
And so if there's a lot, then I would probably use, if you have some people have security systems around the outside, as well as ring things and all kinds of technology in the house. And so, yes, I would recommend putting the Q disc on some of those. But if you just have like the basics around your house, you could probably get away. I have the Liquitech. I don't have one of these on my router, but I also have the Wi-Fi spaceship, which puts the whole half a mile into a quantum field. So you have
Okay.
pieces.
I have that too, so I guess hopefully I'm covered.
I think you're covered. Yeah, I would definitely, I would go to the EMF page on my website and download. At the bottom of the page, there's about 5 or 6 different downloads. I will share my screen if I can figure it out for a second. Nope, can't figure it out right this second. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go, share. So on the bottom of the EMF page, it's not what I wanted. Oops, let me just, sometimes I'm not good at sharing the screen, guys, sorry. If you go to the bottom, my website, and then the bottom of the page, the EMF, there's 5 or 6 different downloads, and one of them is pretty updated of how you can use the Liquitech paint in a electric car. In an electric car where the computer screen is, I would definitely put a Q disc. Most of them only need 1 Q disc. I've tested a few different cars, but a different one besides a Tesla. It starts with an R. But under your seat where you're sitting, you need to use the Liquitech also if you don't want to get radiated the whole time you're driving. Carla, go ahead and unmute and you can ask your question.
Oh, hey, Julie. You know what? I talked to my doctor today, and I asked him to do a glucose test on me because I don't think I'm pre-diabetic, but one of the things that I noticed is that every so often I'm getting these intermittent tinglings in my feet. And so I wanted to, and I read about it, but I don't think, and I'm not a big sugar person. I mean, I do have my waves of like wanting some treats or things, but I'm not an overly sugar, but food turns into glucose. I do, you kind of taught me that, but I'm trying to figure out how, what should I do to kind of minimize, the tingling, or if I can, or just to do, because I know sometimes if I don't, sometimes I notice it doesn't come all the time, but I don't want it to get worse. And then also, how do I, what should I be doing to make sure I don't become pre-diabetic? Because I am a little bit overweight, and I'm doing the workouts, I'm doing the healthy things, but I don't know what to do.
Those are both good questions. There's short and very long answers to those questions, but the short answer first is that the pancreas, which is related to diabetes, needs CoQ10 in order to function correctly. And the devices pull CoQ10 out of the body. I know that that's one of your remedies, and the phone is now remediated for you, hopefully, and the laptop, I think, as well. So I would first double or triple up on CoQ for a few days and see if that helps you overall feel better. If you feel better, you probably needed it. The pancreas also easily can have, all the organs and glands can have infection, toxicity, or parasites in them. And a scar that you have, like over here, can also reflex to and weaken your pancreas over the course of life. Even if the scar, the injury happened 20 years ago, it takes 20 years to slowly take down an organ or gland. So those would be things to look at on a bigger picture, and we can do that in a one-on-one environment to really see what's going on with your pancreas. All food does turn into sugar in your blood, and if we have time, we could talk about that as well. So eating, we want to keep your blood sugar balanced, and maybe we will go into that topic, and which can lead into hormones if we don't have any questions after this one. So food converts into sugar in your blood, and so that you don't get a huge sugar spike when you have carbohydrates and sweet foods like carrots and melon or cantaloupe, you should have oil or fat at the same time so that you don't get as big of a blood sugar spike. That will help start to stabilize your blood sugar over time so that you don't have ups and downs, which puts stress on the pancreas and really the whole body. The neuropathy is what a medical person would call it, the tingling in your feet. So it's a nerve related thing. So I would also look at the nerves, and the base of the skull, like if you take your fingers, everybody, on the bone at the top of your shoulders and neck and slide up under your head from the bony point up to under the head, it should be like a ridgeback dog. You should be able to scoop your fingers up and under your skull. And if you can't, then your vagus nerve is stuck and it may be inflamed. And the vagus nerve controls the entire body and the entire nervous system. So if that nerve is stuck, you could be in fight or flight, you could be in stress out mode, and your nervous system could be freaking out. And that would shut down certain areas of your body, causing to nerve pain or tingling also. And I don't think any doctor will tell you about that, but that is true. And especially if you start to get like nerve things or weird things in the fingers, because everything from the belly button up has to drain out to the hands, and from the belly button down, the feet. So if you're having it in your feet, I would be looking at the kidneys and the tailbone to look for an injury or a traffic jam on one of the hamstrings or the shins or lower legs, because a traffic jam is usually related to that. And you know, if it's to the fingers or the neck stuff, I would be focusing on neck. Who has not hit their head? I mean, I hit my head 1,000 times in my lifetime. I was hugging my baby when he was small and he like went headbutt first and like in the nose. And I've banged it on car doors and cabinets and skiing and, you know, all things as a kid. So any of these little traumas can add up. If you've had numerous traumas that are on the same meridian, it could have blocked the pancreas, or it could be blocking something that is preventing you from losing weight and being at a healthier weight. So those are all pieces of the puzzle. For your direct question about with your feet, I would get out the mat. We have a spoonk in the office. It's a mat that has all these little spiky things, and you kind of step on it and you increase the circulation in your feet and see if that helps. Because a lot of people's feet are tight and don't have circulation in them. I had a 72-year-old male a few years ago that came in for a session. He's very proper and, you know, preppy dressed and nice shoes. And he was having a health problem. I had him take off his shoes. His foot didn't bend from this, like nothing moved. Like this was his foot. And I was like, it was like a wood plank, like your foot is part of your body. If you can't move any of your fingers and toes, then your circulation is blocked. And this nerve pain or neuropathy or whatever they want to call it, with the diabetes, is related to circulation being blocked. So we need to get circulation into all the fingers and toes on a regular basis. We need to move them. You can get on that little bed of nails. You can do little hand things like this. I definitely recommend inversions, like feet on the wall, to let the blood drain out of your feet and go back to your heart and get recirculated to get more oxygen in there. All your vitamins and minerals and sweating and your breath work, all of that should be providing cleaner blood. And we want that blood to go back and circulate to the feet, because you may have some stagnation in the feet or some traffic jams, as I said. So there are so many different angles and avenues and choices that you can do. I probably didn't even mention them all, but I would start with the ones that jump out at you and the ones that feel easy for you to do. And I would go from there to, you know, we can go build a foundation of just movement and see if that already feels better and it's less, and adding in the CoQ10 and, you know, this thing on a couple of times a day, see if that, when it feels tingly, you can put the phone on the head, and you know, go from there. And then we can like iron it out to less and less likelihood of an issue. But there's usually parasites, bacteria, fungus, and toxicity in everyone's body. I know that sounds lovely to hear. And it's true, everyone has them, and we're just working our way, you know, carving out, chipping away, getting some of them out of the body, and then there's more. And the body is like an onion. So whatever is ready to release comes to the surface. And that's what I was talking about in the first few minutes of class tonight, is in terms of the planet and even the whole solar system, we are like a speck of dust. Like in the big scheme of things, we are a speck of dust. And whatever happens out there in the astrology and in the sky and in the planets and the solar system, it's a domino effect all the way down to us. And so all this, like the moon and Pluto, I'm going to probably say it a little bit wrong, but the moon and the planets are all moving, and Pluto is stationed at a place that it hasn't been for like 200 or 300 years. And that's all happens during turmoil. I think the last time it happened was like the Civil War. And there was something also in France around the same time, a war. And so it is a time of chaos energetically. And we, each individual, are going to be like, why do I feel amazing an hour ago and now I have like a headache or a stomach ache? It's because stuff is just constantly moving and changing. And that is why I give you these simple solutions, these tips: tapping and swiping, breathing, the sticker on the phone. I want to share my friend's breathwork app with you, because just when you do breath work, just manipulating your breath in different ways, you clear out toxicity and you increase the oxygenation. And oxygen is what burns fat, prevents cancer, treats cancer, makes your head more clear, so it gets rid of brain fog, energizes you. And I don't remember if I said burns fat. So we need oxygen more than anything else, and it's in the air. So when we breathe efficiently, we get more oxygen. Some of you know I have oxygen cans around the clinic. Sometimes we just inhale oxygen because it's fun and it kills infection and toxicity and goes to all the places and circulates around your blood. And your blood carries the oxygen. That's also why we do the ozone machine. Ozone dissipates in 20 minutes into oxygen, and oxygen then floods your body. Actually, just kind of got like high after doing that one big hit of oxygen. And when you check your pH, you could do this in saliva or urine, but this will tell you how oxygenated your body is. And if you don't have an alkaline pH, then start looking for, what can I change and what can I tweak in my body to get my pH more accurate, because that means that things are starting to fix and heal within your body. And a short story, that's not really a story, but my pH, I'll make it into a little bit more of a story. The very first holistic practitioner that I went to see 24 years ago had me check my pH every single day when I went there, but never explained to me anything about it. And so it was always acidic, but he would like write his notes and do some energy testing like I do and just give me a program, and never explained it. So I started seeking it out on my own. And then I did things and suddenly my pH got alkaline. And that's why I teach these things to you, because there are so many avenues to healing. This is a direct indicator that my body is in a good place. And so my pH has been alkaline for years. And suddenly, about 2 weeks ago, my pH wasn't alkaline at all in the morning. And I was like, what is going on with my body? And so I'm checking it every day. I'm, doing different treatments, coffee enemas, extra soaking, taking more minerals, electrolytes, tapping, swiping, whatever I teach you, I do. I practice what I preach. I only know how to preach it because I've had to do it to myself. And finally, after 2 weeks, my pH was alkaline again in the morning. And you might hear I have a little bit of, maybe a tiny bit of sniffly sounding, just from whatever I have been clearing out of my own body and life and system. I do the same thing that I teach you. It doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 24 years. I still have more, as do you. So, because I'm older than 24 years. So it takes the first 20 to pollute your body and the next however many to start unwinding and unfolding things. And so I am privy, or whatever the right word is, to the same issues as you, and I use my tools to treat them. So I used some tools and I got my pH back to alkaline. And now I go, oh, okay, good. My pH is balanced again. Normalcy and balance has happened in my body. And so that's what I want you to do for yourself. When the pH, the best time to check it is first thing in the morning, the first pee in the morning. So I leave it on the back of the toilet. First morning urine, just one little, rip it off. You just need to get one drop on it. It's either going to be yellow, blue, or green. We want it to be green every single day. Then you check it again this time of day, like pre-dinner. And you go, at the end of my exercise, my nutrition, my supplements, my smoothies, my diet, my work, am I alkaline? And no matter what, the evening one should be alkaline. So if that one's not alkaline, then you haven't done enough of the right things to balance your today body back into balance. And so if you check it around pre-dinner and it's acidic, then go do something. Electrolytes, salt, water, more greens, and then check it again and see what does it take to get myself alkaline. And as far as food goes, it's fruits and vegetables. It's, if you know, meat and crackers and bread and carbohydrates leave you acidic. So it's none of those. So it's either smoothie, greens, something, or one of your supplements that maybe you're like, you know, in the case of Carla with her question, maybe taking an extra CoQ and she goes back and suddenly her pH is alkaline. Something that you are taking on a regular basis or using or doing in your life. And maybe it's not something, but many of the people that are here today are also people I work with one-on-one. So most of you are on a program. And if you're not, you can be if you want, but whatever you're doing that feels right, you need more. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I will take, if there's another question, otherwise I will actually go into a little bit about talking about blood sugar. No questions. Okay, so let me go into blood sugar since that was related to, well, now I gotta open that first. That was related to Carla's question. We have about 25 minutes left, so let me open up. Oops. Now that I said that, let me find my blood sugar. Here we go, blood sugar. Okay, so now let me share my screen and see how savvy I can be on Zoom. Let's see. Share my screen. Nope, doesn't want me to share it right now. There we go. Hallelujah. Okay. I always say I could cure cancer, but sometimes I don't know how to do something on a computer. Very often, actually. Okay, so this is your blood. Let me get my little markers so that you can see. I'll move out of the way so I can see the screen. All right, it's not going to let me. There we go, my pointers. Where are you? Okay, there we go, my heart. Okay, so this is your blood, where I'm marking it with heart. And in your blood, blood is fluid. And in your blood, this is after you eat something high in sugar. You get all these S's in your blood. Like, so I just had carrot juice, instant dose response in my sugar, tons in my blood, tons of sugar, right? And so, gosh, the Zoom is really torturing me today. Okay, so you have something high in sugar, blood sugar rises, you get sugar in your blood, or you have something processed and sugar gets into your bloodstream instantly. Then what your body does is, I have to unshare for 1 second to switch the screens because I don't seem to know how to do that. And then switch the screen. So you get instant sugar in your blood and your body goes to the pancreas and it goes, oh, pancreas, hurry up. We have a ton of sugar. Give us some insulin. So now you have a sugar with insulin. That's what the I is in the screen in the blood. So you have sugars and you have insulin, and your body sees a ton of sugar, it sends out a ton of insulin. And each one, they pair off together, the sugar and the insulin, and they go off to storage, and they go store in either your muscle or your fat cell. And oh, I was able to change screens. Okay, so this is what it looks like when they go and they store in your muscle cells. The muscle cells are so small that they get full pretty quickly. And so when the S and the I go off to the muscle cell, maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 10 sets can fit in the muscle cell. And then the rest go and they store in your fat. And you can see this squiggly line right here because the fat cells, the muscle cells have like steel walls, but fat cells can stretch and stretch and stretch. And so what happens is once you have a ton of sugar and insulin in the blood, they go off to storage, and you end up getting left. Will you let me change screens now? You end up getting left with just insulin in the bloodstream. See, I wasn't prepared for this talk today, and now my screen is being funky. So what happens is that everything goes off to storage, and then left in your blood is just insulin. And that is the problem, because your body sends out more than enough insulin to take care of the sugar, and then you end up with too much insulin in your blood. And that is when problems start to really happen, because when insulin is in your blood, here we go. I have a better visual for you. I'm hoping that you can see this screen now. Okay. So now this is what I have on the screen. Hopefully you can see this. You have just insulin left in the blood. And that's when you literally physiologically crave sugar, because your body does not like having insulin floating around. And this repetition of this leads to pancreas issues and blood sugar issues and diabetes. So having an erratic blood sugar throws off everything in your body, because when your blood sugar is stable, you burn more fat, you have more energy. But when your blood sugar goes up and down and up and down, you store extra fat, and you burn out your pancreas, really, because the pancreas gets exhausted from doing this on a regular basis. So, and then you have hunger and appetite, cravings and crashes. So when you're like, if this is the stable line, when you're here with just insulin in your bloodstream, you're down here, and we want to be up here. And blood sugar spikes lead to blood sugar crashes. And that's what we're constantly trying to avoid. Let me see if I can find you just one more quick picture that I like to show. Let's see, it's in my book, which you can now find on Amazon. Let's see if, here we go. Oh, that is not it. I wanted to show you the graph that I often share. But now I have too many things labeled blood sugar. Sorry, guys, I don't mean to be so slow. I think the visual helps. If I can, here we go. Here we go. So here's the visual on the screen now. Hopefully you can see this. This graph up top is on the left-hand side is blood sugar, and on the bottom is time. So blood sugar should be like this dotted line.
Really, we don't see it, so.
I was going to say, someone shout it out if you don't see it. Okay.
No, we
So
don't see it.
let me stop the share, and then let me share it again. Okay, now you see it?
Now it's up. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, did you see the blood with the insulin in it or not?
Yeah, we saw that, but it was this one. It showed more insulin than blood, but it made the point.
Okay, cool. And then let me go back to my pointers. Okay, so on this side of the graph going down is blood sugar, and on this side is time. And this dotted line is where we want our blood sugar to be, little ups and little downs. But when you have something really high in sugar, I'm putting a lot of hearts here, your blood sugar rises really fast and can crash in as little as 5 minutes. Sorry, I just covered up the 5. When you eat, that would be like orange juice, super high in sugar, like ice cream, something liquid that doesn't need a lot of digesting, up and super fast crash. And then if you have just carbohydrates like bread, rice, pasta, your blood sugar will rise just as high, crash just as low, but it will take a little longer. So 30 minutes to an hour. And what we want is this slow and steady rise, this line C. We want your blood sugar to rise slow and steady so that as you digest your food, it comes down slowly, but it never crashes through the line. And instead, like this says right here, about every 3 to 4 hours, you're supposed to eat again. So if you eat again, you'll keep it where the new hearts are going, straight. Versus if you wait too long to eat, you start to crash, you end up down here below the dotted line. When you are below the dotted line, you are in the same place as that last visual with insulin in your blood. And your body is literally like shaking, like, I need sugar, and you start craving. So we want to basically get rid of that problem. We never want to drop below the line. We want to just, we want to keep the body and the blood sugar all balanced and kind of like what we call the zone, like from the dotted line to line C is the healthiest place to be. So that where your blood sugar is actually affects your hormones also on a day-to-day basis. There's like a today and right now with your hormones and your blood sugar, and then there's a long-term what goes on with your hormones and your blood sugar. And you know, they're all affected by your nutrition, your sleep. Your hormones affect your sleep, and your sleep affects your hormones. It's a combination of both things. And so I'm going to stop the share and go back into the original one that I wanted to talk about, which is hormones, which I think will lead right into this. But now I have to find.
Quick question, Julie. So for us that are over 50 and we're going through the menopause, or we've gone through like have a hysterectomy, we don't have, you know, how does that affect the blood sugar and the hormones and everything like that when you don't have, or your hormones are not really there anymore or balanced?
Your hormones are still there. Even when you don't have a menstrual cycle, you still have a cycle. Like when you don't bleed, you still have a cycle. And I think that affects almost everyone on the call, except we have one male. So he just has to deal with all of us. So when you are when you're having a regular menstrual cycle as a woman, it kind of helps you to know where you're at in your cycle, because that helps you in your life. And once you stop bleeding, you still have a cycle, you just don't bleed. So I think that it's really important for people to keep track of their cycle. Like, you know, the week you feel cuckoo, and you know the week that you don't have as good of sleep. So you still need to be attentive to it. We can run a hormone panel called the menopause panel, and we look at your hormones over the course of a week, and we kind of see where you're at. We see where you're at, and we figure out a plan to balance out your hormones. You still want to balance out your hormones more than ever. So it kind of sucks to like have your period for all these years and wish you didn't have it. And then when you don't have it, you're like, damn, it like really helped me understand my routine and my life. I wish I had it again, or I wish I had an understanding of what's going on in my body. So that is really a self thing, to get out a calendar and track how you feel or how you sleep and your energy. My number one thing about a menstrual cycle is usually the week before my sleep starts to be altered. And then I'm like, why is it so much harder to fall asleep suddenly? And then it's like 2 nights in a row, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting my cycle. So for me, in my body, it was always related to the gallbladder. So I would take extra gallbladder ND, or gallbladder supplements that week. And then I would have amazing sleep. And then there's my cycle. And I had no symptoms, no PMS, no nothing, because I knew which part of my body was related to that. And I treated it. And I think that somebody is waving. I don't know if you have a question. You have a question? Give me a thumbs up, or you're just waving. I will come to you in a second, or you want to say bye. You have to unmute because I can't hear you.
I don't know. Eve just wanted to say hi, Julie. That's
Okay.
it.
Hi, nice to see you. Okay, so back to our, I was just sharing about my own, I know that any of my issues related to my menstrual cycle were related to my gallbladder. And now I'm paying attention to, I have amazing sleep. This week, I don't have as good a sleep. Oh, that's probably where I'm at in my cycle. It's still a cycle, and we still need to take care of it and treat it. And you can go to the extreme and go, oh, I want to do growth hormone, and I want to have all these like young levels of hormones in my body and be like lean and strong forever. That's possible. And I commend anyone that's interested in that. Or you could also just on the other end of the spectrum go to, I just want to have balance so that I don't have disease, and make sure that I'm taking things like adaptogen and I have enough estrogen and enough progesterone in my body. And if you don't, we now have supplements in the form of these. And hopefully that answered the question. Okay, so
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
let me go back to share my screen again one more time, or maybe two. So this is a hormone flow chart. And whenever I give lectures about hormones, I use this because this is science. This is what's happening. If your doctors would read Gray's Anatomy or any other book, they would basically come to an understanding of this. But we know that they don't, because they constantly put people on blood pressure lowering medicine. Cholesterol lowering medicine when people have high cholesterol, instead of actually going to the source. So cortisol is the source. Cortisol is the stress hormone. And in order to produce cortisol, look what you have to make at the top. Well, I lost my annotation. You have to, in order to make cholesterol, these two words are very tricky, by the way, to talk about in the same sentence. In order to make cortisol, over here, the stress hormone, what your body secretes in response to lack of sleep, stress over a project, a deadline, a family member. It could also be consistent deficiency in nutrition. It could be a virus that hasn't gone away. Think about all the people with long COVID. That is making them secrete more cortisol. And in order to make cortisol, you have to make cholesterol. So that's why I know doctors don't ever read this or pay attention. They're just like, oh, you have cholesterol, let me give you some medicine, which blocks this entire pathway, which also blocks estrogen, testosterone, and DHEA and progesterone. So you really don't ever want to do that. In my opinion, I would just focus on getting rid of the stress. And first we go with what stress can we get rid of right away? Like we could stop being friends with this person or that person, or, we could work on getting more sleep. You might not be able to get rid of family members or your job. So you have to learn how to stress manage, which is why we breathe and use all of our other techniques. But if you are high in cortisol, I will guarantee that you are really high in cholesterol. And cortisol is the underlying adrenaline. Adrenaline is like, oh, I got to hurry up and get there, and there's a traffic, let me go. That's adrenaline. But cortisol is like if you were doing that 365 days a year. So that's like this underlying thing. And wherever there's an arrow, there's cofactors or catalysts or enzymes or other nutrients required in order to make it go, for example, from cholesterol to pregnenolone. And then pregnenolone can go either way. And even if you make progesterone, it can go back to the left. And so when we do hormone tests, we look at all or most of these. That's what I'm looking for. And the gold standard of hormones is in saliva. So again, if your doctor's doing a blood test for your hormones, like you could either say never mind, because that's not going to give you that. It's only going to give you information right now at this exact moment, while the doctor is giving you white coat syndrome and stressing you out and draws your blood, telling you all these things might be wrong. You're definitely going to have higher cortisol. So it's really, somewhat pointless, but it might be helpful for a minute. And most of the lab work from a regular doctor just tells you what your range is. It doesn't tell you why. And the functional tests, and obviously you all know the energy testing I do, and then the functional lab tests that we do would tell us why. So if your cortisol is consistently high, we want to figure out, is it infection, toxicity? Is it a traffic jam? Is it, something bigger in your life? And we want to get rid of that to a certain extent or balance it out. So what I want you to see really is the next picture. But I'm going to have to stop my annotation so I can see if I can move to the next one. So this one is really what I want you to see. And let me just erase some of those for a second so you could see. This sheet is way over the top. So don't try to get all focused on the nitty-gritty details, but I will show you there's 2 columns, and they are hypothalamus, which is a gland in the head, pituitary, which is maybe your third eye, also a gland in the head, and then either your thyroid, which is a gland in the neck, or your adrenals. That's the only difference between the 2 charts. They both have hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal. This is hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid. And thyroid is your metabolism. And so I'm always explaining this to people when they're talking about metabolism, body weight, etc. In this box in the middle, it says stress, and stress is all the things I just mentioned. It's EMF stress, it's blood sugar out of balance stress, it's people, places, things going, it's underlying dysbiosis, pancreatic or digestion insufficiency, it's infection, toxicity, traffic jams. So those are going on all the time. And I'll use the graph on the left for right now. The hypothalamus has to send a signal, which tells the pituitary to send a signal, which tells the adrenals to make cortisol and all of these other hormones that are over here. But on staying with the left column so far, if there's a little bit of stress, this will happen with 1 arrow. If there's a lot of stress, this will happen with the 3 or more arrows. And then if you see what happens over here, starting to secrete that much cortisol goes over here and blocks the thyroid. It blocks the pituitary, sending a signal to the thyroid. And what you can't see on this sheet also right here is it says selenium. So if you don't have enough selenium, this action will also get blocked. But coming back over to the left, where you're having a lot of stress, if you do get all the way through to making cortisol, which we know everyone does, that also comes over here and blocks the thyroid on the path from the adrenals. And then cortisol itself also comes over here and blocks this part of the thyroid's action, which is where the signal got into the thyroid, but now it has to get into the cell. And over here it says, with stress, this gets blocked. So if you're having, or somebody that has thyroid issues, it's like one of the #1 prescription medicines in the United States. You might say, hey, do you have stress? And maybe and do you also have high cholesterol? Maybe you can focus on dealing with that, and your thyroid will actually start working. The thyroid is actually, the thyroid is in the middle of the neck, and the meridian point that we use for energy testing is down here in the base of the neck. And this is the parathyroid. It's all under the jaw. And the gums do not have a blood supply. They don't have a pump, rather. So whatever happens in the mouth needs to get pumped out. And so if you've had injections to take out your wisdom teeth, you've had injections to do caps or crowns or anything else, that's usually stuck. There's stuff usually stuck in the gums. And then you one day get a lymphatic massage and they help everything flow all the way out, or you do efficient tapping and swiping to move it out. But one of the reasons I'm telling you that is because I have never seen an actual thyroid problem for anyone that has come to my clinic for a thyroid problem. It's always a parathyroid, and it's stuff up here, and it's a traffic jam, and no biofield, and the liver or the kidneys or something is not working. And when you get the body working correctly, you no longer have a thyroid problem. So I have never, and one of my associates, we both say, like, we've never seen a thyroid we can't fix, and we've never seen an actual real thyroid problem. It's toxicity, and it's an overload on your detox organs from all of the stuff we keep talking about. We have about 2 minutes left, so I will stop talking and see if there's any questions related to that. So there's the tie-in, but I do have to say one more sentence. Can't stop me from talking. It's the blood sugar is a tie-in with the hormones because of the stress. When your blood sugar plummets, your body secretes cortisol. So any questions? Anybody?
You said stress. So stress isn't just also like emotional, like, you know, I had a bad day at work or I have my kids. It's your body could be in stress, is what you're saying?
Correct. Yes, there's nutrient deficiency, toxicity, infection, parasites, bacteria. Just being in fear is just like stressful. That's what, that's what goes on the news. So, watching that can cause all kinds of stress in the physical body. Absolutely. And then when you work on healing, because your body's like an onion, and I use this example very frequently because it always happens. I can help somebody get rid of a parasite, and then they become an emotional wreck because the parasite was like blocking that person from feeling. It was eating a lot of their food. We get rid of the parasite, and suddenly the person's like a mess. So then they have to work on their emotional body using the body talk sayings, and clearing out other people out of their energy, out of their energy field or their body, because otherwise that starts to seep in and create a whole nother level of stress. And that is why healing is a seesaw and, cyclical, and it's all just about energy moving. And we need to keep coming back to ourselves every day. And that is why I give the simple tools that I do, because you can go to allopathic doctors and all kinds of holistic healers, and they can do all these treatments to you. But when you leave, within the next 2 weeks, your body's going to go through the shift and the change to keep you staying as good as you felt at the end of that session. And then the shit's going to hit the fan, because energy is like this and emotions are like this. And when you're down here, you either have to make another appointment or you have to live in a place where you're like, I am not in balance. So that is why the tapping, the swiping, the soaking, the earthing, the body talk words, the phone on the head, all of these tools are to help bring you back into balance today so that you could go, okay, I feel better. And many of you, I've said, when you don't feel good, double up on your custom prescription of your supplements, because they're already working for you, but you're just having like a healing crisis, like a bell curve. It's just like a moment for a couple of days where stuff is healing and killing off or dying off or shifting or changing. And you just need support to stay grounded and balanced so you can make it through your day. So you use your custom program for that, or you use your emergency kit, your medicine chest remedies of, I don't feel good. Yeah, I'm on a bell curve. I don't feel good, and I'm constipated, and I'm not sleeping. So then you need to take something or do something to help you go to the bathroom or sleep. And then you come back to equilibrium and you go, okay, I'm better. And I did that myself. And then you get empowered because you're able to heal yourself. And all the stuff they tell you out there about how hard healing is BS, because you just did it yourself on your own with your hands or your breath or whatever you used, any of the other tools I said at the beginning. And that brings us back to my tagline, simple solutions for health. It is not that hard. There are many things to do, but healing is easy. And when you have a biofield, healing is limitless. And that is the name of this health club for a very specific reason. And that is why every one of these health club meetings, I will keep bringing it back to step 1, 2, or 3. In order to heal, you have to have a biofield. Your detox organs, AKA assembly line, have to work. Because otherwise you go do this treatment of the doctor and it overloads your liver. And now you're like an angry bitch, or you're like depressed, or you have road rage because you got a healing that made your shoulder feel better and your shoulder's great, but everything left the shoulder and now it's in your liver. And so then you have to tend to the assembly line and use all your tools till you poop it out or sweat it out or breathe it out or excrete it out. And then you're back to balance again. So to really understand that that's all it is with healing. And then you go, okay, let me stay grounded and balanced for a week or two before I do another treatment, because I like feeling sane. And as soon as I get a treatment or do something to get rid of that other pain, I'm going to be another wreck for a couple of days, or I might be. So maybe I should line up my tools in advance before I go get another treatment or a session. But you have the tools, the ones that I teach, like, laughter and breath work are two that I haven't talked about enough, but those are both on my list of healing tools. But we have tapping, swiping, grounding, soaking, this, and body talk. I mean, that's more than an arsenal of tools to just get you through when you don't feel good. And those are all free for the most part. And then if they don't work, you can throw down a couple of supplements and see what helps. And you should always be able to come back to equilibrium. And with that, I will close out our Limitless Health Club meeting for tonight. And those of you that got an email or a text with the link, if you're interested in joining, we meet the second Wednesday and the fourth Thursday of every month. And, or tell a friend. I would love to have more people join. And I take personal questions and I teach kind of exactly like I did tonight. Usually I'm a little better at screen share. I will practice before the next class. And then if you are a Limitless Health Club Plus member, you can go into your login area, your portal, and you can watch this class again tomorrow or as soon as it gets posted or the next day. And you can see all the classes, all the meetings from 2022. And we've broken out some into small little clips of specific topics. And if you're a Limitless Health Club basic member, we have put a couple of these classes in there for you to see, and all the do-it-yourself stuff and all the basic courses. So also to tell your friends that are not willing to spend the money or the time to come do one-on-one healings, this is the next, the lower level financial commitment that they can do to still get all the benefits of healing. That may be the reason why you referred them to me. So please share. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them. And otherwise, I bid you a healthy evening and I will see you soon.